will the city put a limit on how many stores that they do? That's something I would like to see, and not have it be like, you go down the village now and there's a hair salon on every block. To me, and like the gentleman said over here, that you can oversaturate things. I would like the city just to, have an idea of how many stores will we allow. Will there be a limit to it? And I would not want to see residential areas change to business areas because of this. Because people do get to a point where it's like, this isn't the city I moved into. We want to move to another city, but I just want the city to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next meeting, we'll bring a map that has the different zones, so we can more easily point out where our business districts are. In regards to the number of businesses, we do have a lot of power in how many we would like to license and the type of businesses. So it's great input. Thank you.
Will the next meeting have different information?
It'll be a slightly updated presentation just based on some of the input we received from this meeting. That one will be done virtually, but we'll also have those slides available online as well as the recording if you can't make it.
Hi, my name is Vicki Noble, and I would be really interested also in seeing the map where we could end up potentially seeing the stores and how many. But it was interesting seeing, this whole presentation is like opening my eyes to something totally new, so I appreciate the information. And the only cannabis stores that I've seen have been more of, not blacked out windows, but just, like paper posters on the window and prices and things. And it was nice to see the one picture where it almost looked like you were looking into a professional pharmacy or something where and everything's under a glass case. Are we assured that there will be security with every single business, that there will be security cameras? Because you did mention those. And I think that's what, as a resident, we don't want to be surprised about. We don't want to be surprised at where they will be placed, but we don't want to be surprised at how they're going to look too.
So if we do move forward, then there's a lot of power the city has in licensing the businesses and deciding which businesses can establish in the city, so ones that have been established somewhere else. As for security, the city can also have requirements for security, so whether it's a security guard outside or having a separate area when you walk into the space that keeps the products away until your ID has been checked. For cameras too, that is something that other jurisdictions have done, requiring a certain amount of cameras, requiring where they go, as well as having the police have access to the footage.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. My name is Megan Day. I'm a cannabis nurse here. I see patients all the time, and I teach them how to use cannabis as medicine. I do hate sending my patients to Catalyst and Stizzy, and those are like our closest local ones. So I just want to echo what you said, that I don't want another Catalyst or Stizzy here. I would like to see like knowledgeable budtenders like out on the floor interacting with people, not just behind a counter. And being able to teach people about terpenes and cannabinoids, and not just the ones who are selling the highest THC products. That's what I'd like to see as a nurse. And I'm just wondering, do you have any idea how you're going to be, your criteria for licensing, and how you're going to be choosing licensing for retail stores?
We haven't selected any method at this time. We're still taking in all the options, whether it's competitive, lottery, first come, first served. There's many different options that have been used across the state.
lived around by Lake Mary, I know a few people in there. I come from the original black market, I'll tell you, in the early 80s. Got locked up for it, came back, living in Claremont, doing the right thing, have legal facilities in Harris and other parts. And the only question I have is that when you start bringing these big corporations in and all these big corporations get away from the small Claremont, like the family, no drive-through, Bentley's Market, you know, vinyl records, you know, you don't want to get away from any of that. You want to keep that like kind of nostalgia there. So when you're speaking, are you trying to sell it to the big corporation, or are you trying to keep it locally driven? Because if you keep it locally driven, I believe that you'll have a better presence of the city and not of the county or of the surrounding cities. Because I believe that like Claremont protects itself if you allow it to, you know? So I just came to present myself to let you know that like Claremont's a great place probably to have it at, you know, but I just want to make sure you're keeping the local residents in your thoughts, because that's the main part. All right?
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for doing this. My name is Mark Ramos. I'm president of United Commercial Workers Local 1428 in Claremont. Most of you know us as the folks who represent folks who work in the grocery stores. But the UFCW also represents over 7,000 cannabis workers in the state of California. While all of the ideas about who's coming to town are great, I don't think what should be lost is who actually works in these facilities, right? That the shops I visited, the bud tenders that I've seen, at Steezy, Cannabis, and Bar, Perfect Union, they're pretty well educated, maybe not as well as the nurses, much higher sense of the product. But I think it's also important, like I said, you have to consider what the overall benefit to the community is at large. So it's not just about the shop. Who works in the shop? How much are they making? What are they able to contribute to the community as a whole? Because it's not just about the one bucket of tax revenue. It's about supplying a job, a living wage job to the worker, so that worker has cash that they can spend in the city to actually drive tax revenue through that avenue, right? So there's two things that we should be talking about here. While I think the industrial area in Claremont is interesting, I think it's much different than most industrial areas, because especially where, we'll say where Claremont Craft Brewery is, it's really highly trafficked street, right? So it's not like hidden like you'll see in most, Pomona's industrial area off of Valley back along East Pomona Road back in there. It's really hidden, it's hard to find. This won't be, if that's the one area. We just see Foothill, Alex, is there anything south? So just trying to, trying to figure out, right? So I think there's a lot to consider here. We represent folks at Callus, Steezy, and Bark, Perfect Union, OG Nation, Medmin, on Wonderland, on and on and on. So I think there's a lot to consider here. I don't think that the idea of a boutique shops is the answer. I don't think there's anything wrong with a Steezy or Callus to fit right into the community, whatever the definition of a boutique is. These businesses are highly adaptable, highly regulated, highly taxed, and the market is struggling, right? The market in California is really, really struggling when it comes to who's able to survive. You're seeing a lot of operators go out of business. A lot of it is because they're not well capitalized enough to survive in a very competitive market. Along the 210, tons of traffic. So I think Claremont is interesting. I think I would suggest you don't oversaturate the market, enter it very conservatively, the way Pomona did. Pomona is seeing anywhere from $3.5 million to $4 million in tax revenue. Has produced about 150 jobs in the city. They're paying a living wage with health care and benefits. Pomona has a local hire component. 30% of all jobs that are established in those shops have to go to Pomona residents. Pomona also, what I think is a very unique thing that Pomona did, was has a 1% mandatory community give back of gross receipts to a community program in town. Steezy, on 8 months worth of sales, that check was $207,000 that they contributed to a park and a local magnet school. Catalyst just presented a check. They've done other ones, but they just did this ceremony last week. It's about $90,000 was to rehabilitate a park in town. So while the state has minimum standards, I always encourage cities to think big. What does your city need, and how can cannabis help bring those solutions to your city? Because there aren't very many opportunities that your city council is going to get to put standards or expectations on someone who's coming to town to do business with you. Cannabis allows that to happen. So it's not just thinking about the shop, think about the community, the workers, and how all of it can work very symbiotically and actually be very, very successful. Because I think Claremont's a very unique market, and I think it will provide a lot of opportunities, especially because Upland has taken such a hard stance against cannabis. You will attract a lot of residents from Upland to here. Again, I think it's attractive. I think it could work. Put good integrity standards in place. Keep your city council safe. I think Pomona's a great model. I think it's very easily, Pomona's 180,000 residents. I think it's very adaptable to Claremont. You look at their integrity standards and the way that they went about things. I think if you go to the Catalyst store on Holt, if you've been in the area long enough, that block was filled with vacant businesses that were boarded up for darn near a decade. That block has become revitalized because of the foot traffic going into the Catalyst shop. All of those shops are now beginning to open and be leased out, right? So you see a revitalization happen. So again, think about what the city needs, not just the shop. Think about the workers, where they live. 5 college campuses in town. There's a dedicated workforce right there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. We're on one last chance. Who wants to come up? So I think that a lot of the emphasis of the comments were on the revenue side, and the city council wouldn't have wanted us to come here just because of the revenue. I think it's something, they know there's a demand in the community, they've talked to residents who are interested. And as we do with everything in Claremont, we want to have community input and make sure that we are addressing all of these concerns and questions. We will have a follow-up after this. Any questions we didn't answer, there'll be an FAQ. If you sign up in the back, you'll receive any updates on our cannabis initiative. So you'll receive emails until you tell me to stop. Yeah, my card's over there. If there's no other questions, then that concludes. Yeah?
I was going to speak. Obviously, this gentleman is a representative of a dispensary called Cannabis, which is a equitable dispensary. But I believe that there's many, many other dispensaries out there that are quite well financed, tremendous amount of experience, and I agree with him that most of the top-notch dispensaries have employees that in many cases are college graduates, well educated on cannabis and so forth. And my comment to you is that Catalyst being one, but there's probably another 15 or 20 that are equally as good as cannabis. And I have seen both avenue, and he's correct, because cannabis businesses that are first class bring a tremendous amount of traffic wherever they may be. And I think that the city, looking at residents of Claremont, if in fact they're well qualified, they have the experience and the financial wherewithal, they could be considered. But I suspect that when the city really looks at the cannabis industry, they're going to have to narrow that down to probably about 20 different entities. And like I said, this gentleman talked about Catalyst. I don't know why, because there's so many others out there. But what I wanted to say was that the city should really look at the top. And one thing I also say is, one of the, I believe what I've seen are these consultants that come in, okay? There was a very bad experience in Corona with consultants. Their top 3 picks didn't have locations and or funds to carry on. So I think the city has the wherewithal to look at the applicants and research themselves, and if they want to call a specific consultant in to look at things, they should. But I think that decision should be made by the city, not by some arbitrary consultant group that in most cases has no experience in working in the cannabis industry. What they are, they're well schooled on state law, and they can talk about state law. Other than that, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Alex, people, City of Claremont. My name is Damian Martin. I'm co-founder of and attorney for Catalyst Cannabis Co. I will come up here and represent myself and my company on my own.
There we go.
Mr. Ramos is the president of UFCW 1428. He represents workers. He does not represent our company. The reason why he was able to speak about our company in regards to workers is because our company has been, the employees of our company have been unionized since 2017 with UFCW, and we have entered into a statewide accretion agreement with UFCW in early 2020, such that every catalyst that opens anywhere in the state of California, the employees become unionized. We pay a living wage. The starting wage at a catalyst dispensary is $18 an hour. Over and above that, they receive health benefits, retirement matching. That equates to about $6,300 a year. And the sales representatives, or bud tenders as they are more colloquially, more regularly known, also paid in tips. The reason why Mr. Ramos was able to speak about Catalyst, he also spoke about Stizzy, he also spoke about Embark and Perfect Union, is because those businesses are unionized. That is actually less common than more common. So there's not the ability to rattle off 15 cannabis businesses that are unionized. They just don't exist. And with regard to speaking about our development on the corner of East Holt and Town in the city of Pomona, that's just, as the kids say, facts. That is an actual occurrence in the city of Pomona. We moved into that corner. The entire corner got revitalized and redeveloped. New businesses moved in. I don't know if there's an academic way to say this, but the prostitutes got off the corner. And that's just the reality of the situation, and it's a closely proximate cannabis dispensary relative to this city, so it provides a nice, great, good example of what the potential for economic development that cannabis dispensaries provide. But again, to reiterate, it's not just the store, it's the people in the store that do the work. The employees at Catalyst are unionized and they get paid a living wage. It's something we're very, very, very proud about. And it's going to be an example of when you talk about what cannabis dispensaries can do to elevate people and elevate communities, that's a great way to do it, and we embrace it. So when a union president talks about that important component about licensed cannabis dispensaries, Catalyst becomes an example. But again, we're not the only ones. Stizzy was an example, MedBen was an example, and Embark was an example, and so was Perfect Union. But again, it's more rare than common. And yeah, the community benefits are absolutely critical. We provide those in every community that we're in, and we believe integration, connection with the community is vital to making this business work and making it so it's a business that, again, uplifts people and uplifts community. Thank you all for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last chance.
How old do you have to be able to go into your store?
So for medicinal cannabis, as long as they have a medicinal card, it's 18. So they have to get a doctor referral for that. For adult, it's 21. Okay. Yeah, so there's been studies done and tests with cannabis stores. Some alcohol stores are known for kids to go in there and they can buy it. They don't check IDs. Out of all these audits done, it's a very high percent of stores that kids haven't got it. It's like 99%. So they're very strict with checking IDs. They know there's a lot on the line if they don't. So they are well regulated in that front. All right. That's everyone. So thank you all for joining us. We'll have our next meeting next month. It'll be virtual in the morning. If you have any questions, my name is Alex Cousins. My email and phone number are there, and my card is in the back.